In this practicum project, we're going to work with a fictitious client of Phoenix Rottweiler Rescue. They are conducting a fundraiser and would like to keep track of all the donors to the fundraiser and how much each person gave. In the group box, we can list the donor's name, last comma first, the amount, click the add donation, and we'll add the name and the amount separated by a vertical bar. And it puts it in the list box down here on the left, and it's automatically alphabetized for last name. They then would like to be able to click a button, in this case the Update Tote board, that would go through that list and calculate the total raised. And you can do that by finding the location of the vertical bar using string.indexOf for each item in the list box. So we're going to use a loop, a repetition structure, and we're going to then extract, based on that index of, the substring for the amount and the substring for the name. We can then calculate the total raised as we go through all the items in the list box, determine the average based on the number of items in that list box against the total, and as we go through each item, we're going to place the name in the Golden Leash member list box if they gave $100 or more. And that will also be automatically alphabetized using the sort property of the list box. So the purpose of this assignment is to work on repetition structures, and you could actually do this with any one of the four different structures: for next, for each, do while, do until. You could even do a do loop while or a do loop until. I used a for each loop in programming this. And of course, we're reviewing how using a list box with the items collection and adding items and clearing items. Each time we click the button, we want to clear the items in the list box on the right for our Golden Leash members so we don't get duplicates as we continue to update the board. Let me just run this. So I pre-populated this list box on the bottom with the names of donors and their amount. I'm going to click the Update Tote Board button, and I see that the total raised right now is $1,415, and the average gift is $78.61. Looks like there are 8 donors who have given $100 or more. I can add in more donors, so I'm going to add in Mitchell, Pete, who'll give $120. I'm going to add the donation, so it's going to add to the list box here. Now we see Mitchell, Pete, $120. I'm going to update the tote board, and now we're at $1,535. The average gift is $80.79, and you can see that Pete Mitchell has made the Golden Leash member circle. Let me show you the instructions for this. Here are the project instructions. So the purpose of the alignment of this is using list boxes and repetition structures. In a couple weeks, we'll look at using arrays as collections, as well as lists down the road as a collection device or data structure. But here we're going to use the items collection of the list box. And the nice thing is we really do want to display these, so it works out perfectly. So we're going to set the sorted property to true for both those list boxes. And as I mentioned, when we add an item to the donor list box, it's going to be in the form of donor name, space, vertical bar, space, and then a $ amount. At this point, you will only use what we've discussed thus far in this course to complete the task. Here's the storyboard. I'll give you a larger view of the storyboard in a moment. I also give you the names and the amounts that I pre-populated with. You can copy and paste those in, and then some tips on coding the project. And I suggested using either a for next or a for each loop. Using index of. We'll also use the replace method to remove the $ and the trim method. So you're going to find the vertical bar, you'll get a space, $, and the amount. You can replace the $ with the space and then use trim. Here then is the storyboard and how I named things. If you want to follow my code, I suggest you name things as I do so that the code will align with that. You're free to name objects however you like and to code however you like. But I suggest at this point you pause the video and try to develop this on your own. And if you struggle, then come back and watch my solution. For the add donation, I'm going to create a string variable called donor and have it equal txt_donor.text. I'm going to make sure that that's not blank or a null string. If it is, we're going to show a message box to tell the user to first add the donor name, and we'll exit the sub at that point so the procedure stops running. Assuming they put in a name, we're going to use a try catch to remove any possible dollar signs from the txt amount.text. Sometimes the user might be inclined to add a dollar sign there. We're going to take that out so we can convert this to a double value. So then dim amt for amount as double equals, we'll take txt amount.text. We're going to trim it to get rid of any spaces and then convert that to a double value using cdbl. lstdonors.items. So into our list box, we're going to add, using an interpolated string of the donor, a space, vertical bar, space, and the amount to 2 currency decimal values. We'll clear txt donor, and we'll set the txt amount.text back to a default of $50, or just 50. If something goes wrong, then we're going to have a message box that comes up and says check your input. For the btn tote button, I'm going to dim amount, total, and average as double variables. I'm going to create a integer variable called bar lock. That's going to be the location of that vertical bar in each string item of our items. I'm going to dim donor and amt string as string values, and total equals 0.0. I'm going to clear the items in LST golden leash list box, and then for each item in lstdonors.items, bar lock is going to equal the index of that vertical bar for each item. The donor is going to equal the item.toString.substring. Remember, the items are not necessarily strings, even though they are text values. We're going to do item.toString, and I probably should have put parentheses there, since that really is a method. And then .substring, I want to start with character 0 and go, the number of characters is going to be bar lock. So wherever that location was, .trim. That should extract the donor name. The amt string is going to equal item.toString. And again, since that's a method, I'm going to put parentheses. .substring, and here I'm going to go from bar lock +1, the character after bar lock. And I want to replace the dollar sign that's there with a space. And then amount is going to equal cdbl, converting amt string to a double value. If the amount is greater than or equal to 100, then we're going to add the donor to lstgoldenleash.items, and the total we're going to increment by the amount. That will give us a running total going through all the donors. That's the end of my loops. It's going to go through each donor in the list. lbltotal.text is going to equal the total converted to currency of 2 decimals. Average will equal total divided by the number of items in our LST donors list box. So it's going to be lstdonors.items.count. And then lblaverage.text will equal the average value converted to a currency string with 2 decimals. If you just jumped into this video, you can see all the videos from the Programming Practicum playlist by clicking on the image in the lower right. And if you'd like to be alerted to future videos I create, you can click my picture in the top right to subscribe to the channel.